if you've got a pesky Chevy 327 Vortec engine that leaks oil, and you've tried everything else, give the valve cover gaskets a try, which is what we're going to do now. So we start by taking the coils off.
Or the plug wires.
We're actually taking the plug wires off.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
So using a 10 millimeter socket with an extension, we're going to take the hose bracket off. This is the heater core hoses. Take the bracket off the hoses, gives us more working room. And next, disconnect the assembly for the coilovers for your ignition.
Alright, now we should be able to take the valve cover off.
Yeah, that whole thing comes off as one assembly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So these are the bolts for the
Valve
coilovers?
cover. No,
Oh,
this is for the valve cover.
So the bracket for the coilovers is disconnected already. How many bolts was that?
There's 4 valve cover bolts.
Yeah.
And there's 2 brackets up here that hold a harness to the throttle body.
Okay.
And then there's a vacuum hose here. And then there's this main connector here.
Okay. How many bolts are holding on the coilover assembly?
There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, okay. And you had to
6 actually.
You
6.
had to take those off?
No, I didn't take those off.
Oh, okay.
I might have to though. I'm trying to see if I can do it without taking those off.
And the valve cover bolts, they actually stay on the valve cover, they don't come out. Tricky.
Yeah, you see that?
Yeah.
It came right off.
Yeah.
So,
alright, so now we're going to clean it out. That way the RTV gasket sealer will have a chance to work correctly. Acetone, mechanic's best friend. The old screwdriver and the rag trick. Get those channels cleaned out. So we're actually going to use this Permatex Aviation Forma gasket, but we're not going to coat the whole thing in it. Basically what's going to happen is going to dab it in a few key spots, a few here, just to hold it in place while we snake that valve cover back in. Now again, we're not trying to make a gasket with this make a gasket. It's more to hold the new gasket in place while we snake it in past all the hoses and wiring. That back doesn't want to stay in.
No.
Alright, now we're going to let it set. Let the gasket sealer do its thing. And once it's set up and holding it in place for the most part, we're going to come back and install it.
Alright, it's recording.
So before we put the valve cover back on, we want to clean the surface to give the gasket something solid to grab onto. So I'm using acetone. Alright, we've given it some time to cure a little bit. It's still wet. It's not going to be the ultimate glue. It's an assistant more than a end-all to catch-all. So now snaking this in is going to be a challenge. We did take the assembly for the coilovers off just to make it easier to set this in place. Joey's using his hands to make sure the gasket's set in place correctly before pushing down on the valve cover.
I can't tell if that's on there or not.
Okay, drastic step, next measure. The gasket wouldn't stay in place, so we used some more of the gasket sealer, gave it a good coating. Now we're letting it dry, so hopefully it'll do a better job of holding it in while we position the valve cover in place. Of course, we're helping the gasket sealer dry by holding it in front of a fan. This is going to be attempt number 2. We've moved the heater core hoses out of the way and put more RTV on it, let it dry some. So hopefully we can get it to stay in place while we position it and get the bolt started. So everything's getting hand tightened right now. Just to snug it in, make sure the gasket doesn't move. This is a royal pain in the butt, but this is one of those things where you have to take your time, take care, and take precautions. We're going to look at the key places where the gasket has a tendency to fall out and inspect it with a mirror just to make sure that the gasket's in place. Oh, that looks good. Alright, so we've inspected the whole thing with a mirror. That gasket is in place. Thank God it's blue. Just going to hand snug it down and then torque it to spec, which is 8 foot-pounds or 96 inch-pounds. It's not a whole lot of torque to these. Alright, 96 inch-pounds, here we go. Now it's time to put the coil packs back on. Actually, it's time to put it all back together. So really this is just the reverse of what we did to take it off. And we did take the coil pack off after the fact because we were worried that it would get in the way with putting the valve cover back on. Yeah. 10 millimeter.
Yeah. So let me hook these back up. Like that.
Maybe it is conductive, I don't know. Because it's supposed to be used for spark plugs and shit like that.
Dielectric grease.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Now it's done.
Happy face. So I hope this video has been helpful to you. If it has, hit like, share, and don't forget to subscribe.